You're listening to a weekly podcast made by Miami Dolphin fans for Miami Dolphin fans. Your source for entertaining Dolphin news, insight, and general conversation. Here's your host, Michael Fink.
Hey everyone. Thanks for joining in to the FinFans podcast. This is Mike. With me tonight is Daniel Reinhardt and Jim Johnson.
Hello.
We're going to tell you a little bit about who we think needs to step up this year and really have a career year to bring our team to the playoffs. Starting us off tonight will be Daniel. What have you got, Dan?
Yeah, so thanks for the lead there, Mike, and welcome everybody to the FinFans podcast. As Mike stated, tonight we're going to go over some players that we think need to have career years. And in some cases, specifically this first case, I don't know that I would consider it having a career year because it's going to be his first real year, his first real season in a Dolphins uniform. And that man is Raekwon McMillan. He does need to have an excellent year as the quarterback of our defense. There were multiple things that really shot us in the foot and hurt our season last year before we even got off into the season. And the first one of those things was obviously Ryan Tannehill, but the next one of those things was Raekwon McMillan going down in that first preseason game. He was going to be the quarterback of our defense last year as a rookie, and the Butkus semifinalist, who was fourth rated by Pro Football Focus coming out of the draft last season, is looking to have a big season this year. He rehabbed with Tannehill and with Isaiah Ford. Those guys pushed each other this year. He is a great leader in the locker room and in the film room. He is 6'2" and 240. He runs a 4.6 40-yard dash, and he compares really well to a lot of the Pro Bowl linebackers that are in the league today. He was first-team All-Big Ten coming out of college, and he was second-team All-American. A couple of the guys he finished behind were Jabril Peppers and Reuben Foster. Keep in mind here that Micah Fitzpatrick, for example, was an All-American in 2016 and 2017. What Matt Burke says about Raekwon McMillan is that he has all of the leadership skills and all the things that they look for. And if you ask all the players on the team, they talk about his maturity and his leadership. I'm looking for Raekwon to have a big year in the middle of our defense. Number 52 flying around, making tackles, and leading us with heart and soul this year. We need a linebacker who's just going to step up and be a leader, and I think that Raekwon McMillan is going to be that man. I'm looking for big things from him in this, his second year, yet his first full year in Miami Aqua and Orange. So, Jim, how do you feel about Raekwon? Do you have another man maybe at the linebacker position that you feel needs to step it up this year?
Yeah, Daniel, Raekwon definitely is going to have to be our man in the middle, calling all the plays and making all the calls. He's really got to have a good year, because if he should struggle, we're going to have to move, or maybe not move Alonzo back to the middle, but that's going to put more of a load on Kiko. And we've seen in the past that he can't always handle a big load. So Raekwon is the pivot piece of that linebacking core, and the secondary and the line as well. If you can't make a tackle right there at the point, where the running back is coming through or what have you, the wheels start to fall off the bus. So
you have a linebacker you're looking at this season?
Well, I do. Y'all know I'm not a big Kiko Alonso fan, and he would be the guy that I would point to change my mind. I'd like to see Kiko show me that he can actually cover somebody out of the backfield, and he can diagnose plays and not overrun them. If he can do that, I think he'll add something to this defense, because you can see that he's a high-effort guy. He's a guy that is always running to the football, and from an effort standpoint, you can't ask for more. And that's the kind of guy you want to have on your team, but he's got to make more plays.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Exactly.
He does definitely have the effort on A+ and 100% at all times. He's a guy that'll punch you in the mouth. You know what I mean? He's going to fly in there. He's going to hit you real hard.
Absolutely.
And I love that about him. We're going to get an opportunity to see if he can cover, because he's moving back to the outside. So,
no question.
I think.
Well, who else you got?
Okay, so we're going to stick with the defense right here, and I'm going to move into the secondary. I'm looking at the guy who is going to be the second cornerback we have a couple of guys to choose from. We have a couple of 5th-round draft picks and Tony Lippett and Bobby McCain, who are definitely going to get some playing time, seeing, as Lippett's ankle isn't too bad. And we have a guy in the name of Torrey McTyer, who is an undrafted free agent out of UNLV, who's been playing great in training camp, flying around to the ball, making plays, and he has been getting time at that second cornerback position. But I see Cordrea Tankersley as the guy who's going to be starting across from X. He played 61% of the snaps last year and had 31 tackles. Now, he progressed and got better as the season went on. Between weeks 4 and 14, he played no less than 92% of the snaps. As I said, he got better in week 17 against Buffalo. He didn't allow a single catch on him. He was targeted 42 times on the season and allowed 28 receptions. He did have 7 pass breakups, but allowed 3 touchdowns. I'm looking for Cordrea Tankersley to play no less than 70% of the snaps this season, and he's got a lot of dog in him. I love the way he plays and flies around to the ball too. Coming out of Clemson, I really liked him playing college ball there, and I love what I've seen from him last season, so I'm expecting big things out of Cordrea this year. Just to add, Pro Football Focus has us ranked as the 26th best secondary coming into the 2018 season, so we're definitely going to need guys to step up, and I think Cordrea leads that pack. Jim,
I get the feeling, guys, that they kind of want McTyer to win that job. That's just my sense.
I mean, McTyer's flying around. He's making plays.
Yeah, I got to agree. McTyer's getting a lot of time with the first team defense, so it's as if they really want him to get the job. He's flying around. Tankersley's doing very well. Lippett is struggled a little bit again with an injury. So being the 26th ranked team, that's not many places from the bottom as far as the secondary goes.
Not at all.
We've got a lot of basically young, unproven guys, other than Rashad Jones. Everybody else has to show what they're made out of. And I think this is going to be a year where we could go from ranked 26 to ranked, in the top 10 pretty quickly.
I'd love to hear stuff like that. I would like to add, though, I don't necessarily think they want McTyer to win that job, but what I do think is that they're putting him in positions to succeed, putting him in different packages on the field to make sure that he gets his snaps so that when he does come in, he's not overwhelmed. I don't think that he's going to have that second cornerback position, but I think they're putting him in positions to where he won't be overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's a good point, Daniel. That could be the case.
Have you got somebody else you wanted to mention, Jim?
Well, I would like to shift over to the offense at this point. We're talking about players that need to have a good career year for us to do well in the season and potentially go to the postseason. And the guy that you really can't ignore is the guy that tends to be hot or cold and polarizing to all of our fans is Ryan Tannehill, number 17. He really has to come back from injury and not miss a beat. He can't be rusty. I mean, you can have an off misread here or there, but he really has to step it up. He has to move around in the pocket to dodge some heat and complete some passes. We can look at everybody on offense and say, we got Gesicki now and we've got Kenyon Drake that's going to be a force out of the backfield and receiving passes. Kenny Stills and Parker and all on, but it all goes back to that quarterback. And if Ryan struggles, the offense is going to struggle. So Ryan has got to be my guy that's the top of the list to have a good year. Yeah,
and while I completely agree with that, I was going to stay away from Tannehill during this conversation. Obviously, Tannehill he's our leader, and we're going to go as far as he goes. I want to see him throwing accurate passes to guys. I seen him overthrow Amendola tonight on the first series of the game. He went 4 for 6, and I think he easily could have been 6 for 6. It is his first action in a long time, and it's still the preseason, so I'm not too concerned with that. But you're right. We are only going to go as far as Tannehill can take us. But we have a guy that's going to be on that line in front of him that I think absolutely has to step up this season. He's going to need to make that 13th overall pick worth it from back in 2015, and that's Laramie Tunsil. I'm sorry, 2016. Laramie Tunzel coming out of Ole Miss was highly rated, and he fell to us for reasons that will not be spoken right here, right now. He had 600 pass block snaps last year and allowed 32 pressures, 7 quarterback hits, and 5 sacks. Now, while those don't stand out as horrible numbers, the one thing that I did want to point out is he had 12 pre-snap penalties. 12 penalties, and 8 of those were false starts. He was the most penalized tackle in the league last year, and I realized that he was moving out to tackle after being a left guard, and I realized he had a bunch of turnover on the inside shoulder there. I think Josh Sitton is going to have a lot to do with him being better this season, but I think Tunzel absolutely has to step up. How do you feel about that, Jim?
Yeah, I completely agree. Those pre-snap penalties have to be eliminated. There's just no excuse for it. I don't care if you're going from guard or you're going to tackle or center or right guard, left guard. Mm-hmm. You just can't commit that many fouls. Can't do it.
Nah, Mike, how do you feel about those penalties?
I don't like penalties.
No,
I don't like penalties at all, ever. I think, you got to understand. I watched Shula for most of his career, and I agree with Shula. Penalties cause you to lose games. You can't give back 100 yards. They're too hard to get. You just can't give them back. So, yeah, no, I agree with you guys. Tunzel's got to get it together. The other guy I was going to mention was Juwan James, for similar reasons. You need your tackles to be solid, and James, he'll play a great game, and then he'll have a game where it looks like he's never played before. So he's a guy that's got to show more consistency, and I think he has the talent to do it. I don't think it's a talent issue. I think it's a concentration issue. And that's my opinion on James. We'll see. He had some very solid starts last year, so he has the ability. He's got to figure out a way to get that consistency.
Well, we talk about giving back 100 yards or not being able to make up 100 yards. Our offensive line had 42 penalties last year for over 300 yards. And that's just unacceptable. You talk about Juwan James not being consistent. I talk about Laramie Tunzel not being consistent. And the one thing that I see that may help us in both of those areas is signing a couple of veterans to be steady and sturdy in practice and help show these guys how to be pros on that offensive line. I think Sid and Kilgore are gonna show them what to do. I think they're going to be great additions for our offensive line this season.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there, Daniel. And Kilgore is a guy that's another man on my list that has to have a great season for the Dolphins to get very far this year. I mean, he's stepping into Mike Pouncey's shoes, and Mike is another guy that took a lot of heat for being injured and not doing this and not doing that. But he was a Pro Bowl center and a highly rated guy. Mm-hmm. So Daniel has got to come in and fill those shoes. He's getting the guards and the tackles all on the same play and all of that. So he's gotta have a good year too, so that the whole offense in general can run smoothly.
Yeah, I completely agree. And there's mixed feelings about Pouncey and how he played for us and how he left the team, or how he was unceremoniously given away.
Exactly.
But he didn't practice. And I know we're talking about practice, but I can't undervalue being in those trenches during practice every day with the other guys. And I think that when Kilgore is there every day during practice and Sitton is there, for 80% of that, because obviously he's going to get his veteran days. I honestly agree with you. I think Kilgore coming in there needs to have a great year, and I think he's going to do so.
Yeah, we need to hope so, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Mike, what do you think?
I don't have a lot of thoughts on it. I mean, you guys know I liked Pouncey, and it's not that I thought Pouncey was playing great, because obviously he was suffering somewhat from the hip. Mm-hmm. But what people underestimate was his pass blocking ability, and since we're predominantly a passing team, I think his loss will be felt. But we'll see. If Kilgore can come in and play solid ball, and I've got no problem with that move.
And last season we was only 56% pass, and I think it had been up around 65% the previous year. So
we
definitely are moving more towards the run, and I think Kilgore.
Well, did we do that because Cutler was the quarterback, or did we do that because of a change in philosophy? That we'll have to see.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Mike. Is we had Smokin' Jay back there, and I think they did up the run numbers just so that it was easier to hand it off.
I mean, I can go either way on that. I think there is some logic in leaning a little more towards the run, obviously, because a balanced offense that's successful is tougher to stop.
Absolutely. Mike, do you have a guy on the defensive line that you want to see step up this season?
I've got a couple of guys on the defensive line, but the first one I'm going to mention is Vincent Taylor. He's a guy that, was, a sixth-round pick.
Yep.
He had limited playing time last year, mostly spot duty.
18% of the snaps.
Yeah, well, you got more numbers than I do. But, he flashed a little bit, and I think he's got some talent. But we need to see that talent develop. Now, he's had the training camp. He looked good tonight from what I saw of him.
He did.
So I'm somewhat optimistic that I might actually see what I'm hoping to see.
Yeah, I think that's a great call. And as I was looking at our defensive line, I don't want to say I have more numbers than you, but I looked at the snap counts for our defensive line last year, and I looked at Vincent Taylor's, and I seen he was only at 18%. And then the guy that I think needs to step up this season is Devon Godshaw. He had nearly 50% of the snaps, somewhere around 48%. In comparison, Ndamukong Suh played 84% of the snaps. And we lost that guy. What I have heard from Matt Burke is that Devon Godshaw is the guy that they're going to look to eat up those double teams that Suh was getting. And he seemed to be doing that pretty well towards the end of last season, too, when Suh was out of the game. I think he's going to have an opportunity to really step up and play well for us. Devon Godshaw, in relation to Taylor, who was a sixth-round pick, Godshaw was a fifth-round pick. And so both of these guys really have an opportunity to be gems for us. If we can continue to find guys in the fifth or sixth round that come in and play, 50% of the snaps on the defensive line. Now, we all know that there's going to be more of a rotation this season, but if we can get a guy to come in there and play 45% of the snaps and take up those double teams, we are looking at having ourselves a gem. And while I think that from the limited action we've seen tonight, Vincent Taylor played better, I did like some of the things that I've seen from Godshaw. And just to add, one of the things that they loved most about him and the reason that they drafted him was because he loves to study so much. They said that the thing that stood out about him was that when they sat down to talk to him about film, he was relaying to them the things that were happening on plays before the snaps even happened on the film. So I'm looking for Godshaw to have a big season this year.
You can't underestimate the importance of intelligence when it comes to playing football.
Absolutely not.
No question.
Who else you got, Jim?
Well, on defense, we've got a new fella that really has to turn up the heat from the right-hand side. Robert Quinn was brought in, and
you stole my thunder.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a guy that had a tremendous amount of sacks, led the league, and was an impact player, and we got him on a fairly good deal, and I think it's relatively team friendly. And the exciting thing to me is to think about Cameron Wake on the left corner and Robert Quinn on the right corner. That has got to be a concern for the other team's offensive coordinator, because you're going to have to plan for both of them now, not just double teaming Wake or chipping Wake and not worrying about it. You actually have to dedicate people to both ends, and that should give the tackles more room to breathe, and the linebackers and all of the above. If we really had pressure from that right side, that would make a huge difference for our defense.
That's exactly right, and I would throw Charles Harris into that mix as well.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. You get those guys coming at you for a couple of plays, and then you got Charles Harris coming in there fresh. Bobby Quinn, Bobby GQ, he's got this bend and twist around that end that you just don't see. And as a former first-round draft pick now on our line opposite of Cam Wake, I'm super excited to see that come to fruition during the regular season.
Yeah, when they go into New England, I want to see those ends just dominate Brady.
Crush him. like Suh and Wake did to Bryce Petty.
Poor Bryce,
exactly.
yeah.
Just smoke him.
I thought he was actually going to need to be hauled off in an ambulance.
It looked that way, didn't
Oh
it?
boy, that wasn't good.
We've seen quarterbacks get hit real hard and get right back up. See, Matt Moore in that Bud Dupree game,
Yeah.
the Pittsburgh game, he got
Steelers,
smoked.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that was a shot, but the Petty hit was just great to watch.
It was lovely.
Yeah, that was good.
All right, last guy I got is Stephon Anthony. And I'm assuming he's going to win the starting outside linebacker position. I could be wrong there. But if he does and he cements it, and I think that he is a guy who is going to have to be able to cover the pass a little bit better than he has in the past. So for that reason, I think he'll need to step up.
Yeah, I think Stephon Anthony is going to play a huge role this year. Believe it or not, I didn't really see him out there tonight in the limited action that I seen, but I did see Jerome Baker flying around to the ball, and in the background, in the backfield, covering guys coming out on screens. I liked what I seen from him. So,
I did too.
Yeah, I really hope Stephon Anthony does step up, and I also believe you. I think that he has the inside track to that job.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Anthony should be able to fill that position and do well. But we need linebackers to step up across the board. So it's whoever the light bulb goes on with and wants to seize a starting spot just has to get it done.
Well, between us all, how many defenders didn't we name?
I got three, and I just kind of related to the guys that you said. So.
Yeah,
I've got
No,
one
we
more
didn't. We didn't name Rashad Jones.
Well,
we didn't name Cam Wake.
I think our other man here on the pod has a little bit of talking about Rashad Jones to do. If I'm not mistaken, Jimmy. Go ahead.
Yeah. Rashad Jones is the last guy on my list that really needs to do it.
Boom.
And, well, I agreed with you guys on McMillan, and then I dumped on Tannehill there, and we know the defensive ends have to get it done, either Quinn or Wake or Harris or whoever. And Daniel, you touched on the second cornerback. We're assuming that Xavier Howard is gonna be our lockdown corner, but to me, Rashad Jones has to have a great year, and that'll tell you a few things. That'll tell you that he's kind of freelancing around the secondary and making plays on the ball because he's not trying to help two or three other guys on the field. So if he has a great year, that's going to be amazing for the whole secondary.
Yeah.
Incredibly, we didn't name Jordan Phillips.
My next guy, Jordan Phillips. No, I'm completely kidding. What I want to say about Jones is, he's a Pro Bowler. You know what I mean? And he's one of our best defenders by far. I'm not concerned with will he do well or will he not do well. I think he's going to do great this season. I do think that he's going to have the typical Rashad Jones year. He's going to be coming down into the box now because he's got Minkah. He's going to be punching people in the mouth. The thing that I am looking for out of Rashad this year is to teach Minkah. That's what I want to see. Minkah's already really intelligent, but I want to see Rashad start to mold him. That's what I'm looking for.
He's the veteran on the back end of the defense. He's got to be that guy.
That's what I'm saying. Absolutely. And speaking of Minkah, did you see him flying around tonight?
I did.
Woo.
I did.
Looking good.
Him and Baker both look good on defense.
Yeah, I was liking Baker tearing it up out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was awesome seeing 29 come down and hit people. That's what I love to see.
So have you guys got anybody else you want to add?
I've got one last guy, and bear with me here because I think I'm probably gonna go into a little bit of a soliloquy. I did a little bit.
You?
No,
not me. I did a little bit more in-depth research on this guy than I did the other ones. And
okay.
My last guy, it's not RT, but it's the guy lining up behind him. It's Kenyon Drake. And if you guys listen to the live cast that me and Philip Jason did, I made a bold prediction on Kenyon Drake, and I'm going to back that up right now, and I'm going to back it up with some stats that I found out about Kenyon Drake. So I also posted a little teaser in one of the conversations we was having on the page. So if you was involved with that or if you read that, listen up here. Kenyon Drake played only 475 snaps last year. Okay, he only played 45% of the snaps last year. And we know that basically that's because Jay Ajayi was here in the beginning of the season, and Jay Ajayi had to have his snaps. Okay, that number jumps to at least 65% this season, and I truly believe that even with Frank Gore. Okay, before week 13, he only had 42 carries last year and 15 receptions. After that, it jumped to 91 carries and 17 receptions in just five games. Now, that's nearly 3.5 receptions per game and 18 carries a game. On the season, he averaged 4.8 yards per carry and 7.5 yards per reception for 644 yards rushing and 239 yards respectively receiving. Now try this on for size. Pro Football Focus, okay, they measure multiple variants to divorce a running back from their offensive line play. So we have a bunch of different things that tell us how well a running back is actually doing on each play, okay? One of those metrics is the yards after contact per attempt. In 2017, now get this, Kenyon Drake measured at the most efficient rate in Pro Football Focus history at 4.29 yards after contact per attempt. Now, to put that in a little bit of perspective, number 2 on that list was Adrian Peterson in 2012 at 3.93 yards after contact per carry. And if you remember that 2012 season, he ran for 2,100 yards and 6 yards per carry. In 2017, Miami's offensive line, okay, was the second worst. I'm sorry, it was the worst on a per snap run grade basis. As a matter of fact, it was the worst in the history of Pro Football Focus measuring this metric. According to Pro Football Focus, the average line will give a running back 1.56 yards before contact. Okay. And last year they gave Kenyon Drake 0.51 yards per rush before contact. So let's do some math here. Okay. Say he averaged 18 carries a game, and he dropped his average to 3 yards a carry. But the offensive line was right at the average, 1.56. That would give him 4.56 yards per carry. And if you average that out to 16 games, that's 288 carries for 1,315 yards. If he continued to average 3.5 receptions per game and dropped to 7 yards per reception, that's almost 400 yards receiving and would give him over 1,700 total yards. I believe this year, with the additions on our offensive line and the fact that Kenyon Drake, watching this man, is electric. He's got burst, acceleration. He can make people miss. I believe that he has almost 1,700 total yards. And like I said before, I think he gets up over 10 touchdowns. I think Kenyon Drake has a career year. I think he has the best year of any running back in the AFC East, and I think he finishes as a top 10 running back in the league this year. That's what I think. Jim, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I was looking at some of his stats earlier today, and I was amazed, really, in a couple of the games where he had a good game. He had touches on, run plays, pass plays, several games he was 100 yards, plus or minus a little bit. One game he was almost 200 total yards. So, and this is with one of the league's worst offensive lines. He was making guys miss all over the backfield. I mean, he'd literally get the ball from the quarterback and he would have to dodge a defensive player. Mm-hmm. So if Kilgore and Sitton are as they are rated in the run game, and Juwan James is on his game, and Jesse Davis improves a bit, this guy could really bust up the NFL. So I'm excited to see it play out.
Yeah, and in just a little bit of time tonight, I seen Gesicki do some blocking. I was watching him, okay? And he did not do a bad job. So if he's in there too, and he's able to get that seal block on the outside,
exactly.
Oh boy, watch out for Kenyon Drake this season.
Yeah, everybody kind of dumps on Gesicki for his blocking, but the little bit that I've seen in practices and on tonight, he's learning and he's getting better, which is. That's all I need to see. If he can learn the nuances of picking up this block or that, he's going to be a force. So,
yeah, I think Duarte's teaching him.
Yeah, I think that's great. You know, and what we've got to do, though, is we've got to take that with a grain of salt because these defensives, it was really vanilla tonight.
Yeah, vanilla, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Super.
Well, it is preseason.
Not even French vanilla, just plain old
Plain vanilla.
vanilla.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
All right, guys. That's going to about wrap up this show. I want to thank everybody for listening in. And Daniel, the live feed, we're going to have a guest this week, aren't we?
we are going to have a guest this week. Tune in for Philip Jason interviewing live Antoine Staley of the USA Today Dolphins beat writer. You can also find so much stuff on Antoine if you want to listen to a little bit of the stuff he's done in the past. He's all over the Dolphins podcast. He's all over our page. Do a search on Miami Dolphins #1 for Antoine Staley, and you'll see 1,000 articles that he's written and posted. He's a great man. So get some questions in. I'm going to be putting up a post, me and Philip, for your questions. We're going to be doing that probably this weekend. We want you to submit some questions for Philip to ask Antoine. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, he's out on camp every day, so if you got a camp question, he would be the guy to ask. I look forward to hearing what he has to say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
But again, thank everybody for listening, and we'll touch base with you next week.
Yeah, maybe we can ask him about McTire taking that second job.
There you go.
Perfect. Fins up, guys.
Yep. Fins up. Good night.
Good night.